Hey folks, Sean Noble from Light Beer Dark Money. I wanted to just remind you about one of our sponsors, Americans for Prosperity Arizona. I want to give you a little bit of background on Americans for Prosperity, why they are such an important organization. They achieve policy reforms at the local level through a process which they've developed, which is pretty basic if you hear it. They provide policy solutions based on proven principles. They organize communities to bring people together. They educate, train, and mobilize concerned citizens to take action. They advocate for the policy reforms, and then they hold the public officials accountable for those policy reforms. It's a very simple process. Go to americansforprosperity.org, learn more about them, and thank them for supporting our show, Light Beer Dark Money. Thanks. Welcome back to another episode of Light Beer Dark Money. I'm Sean Noble.
And I'm Chris Clements.
It is Tuesday.
Yes, happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving. This is the Tuesday before Thanksgiving. We typically record on Thursdays, but because of Thanksgiving, we're here early. And it just so happens that just as we're about to go on, we have the official news that there is a ceasefire deal between Israel and Hezbollah.
Yes, so people are reacting to it both positively and negatively, depending on what you read.
Why would anyone be negative to a ceasefire?
Well, I mean, there's a National Review article that says something about that it could have gone farther. So and criticism of Netanyahu, which is kind of typical.
Wait, National Review's criticizing Netanyahu?
Yeah, I think that was what I read.
That's weird.
Yeah.
Well, welcome back.
Here it is. A confused and confusing ceasefire. The Netanyahu government had Hezbollah on the ropes after a stunningly impressive military campaign. Is a truce now a mistake? So that's what I had read. And
Interesting.
I was not framing it properly.
Well,
so it's this idea that why a truce? Why not just blow up some more beepers in people's pockets?
Yeah. I look, if you can find some peace, I'm all for peace.
Yeah. Well, I think it has a lot to do with somebody who's, kind of orange and frosty, and he's coming in about a month, and he's going to push a lot of buttons and pull a lot of levers.
It is, and let's get right into that because if you're listening to this, you're probably in the midst of Thanksgiving travel. Maybe you got there and it's now after Thanksgiving, and you're enjoying
like,
your turkey.
I need to listen to Light Beer Dark Money, see what's going on.
Yes. So happy Thanksgiving. But
yes, we are thankful for you, our
100%.
fabled listeners.
Yes,
for sure.
very
Thank you so
much
much for listening.
What I will say, and if you traveled somewhere, I hope you got there quickly and without any problems, because this is the biggest Thanksgiving travel weekend ever.
Yes. I mean, I plan on traveling just south across the Gila River.
And it's going to take you hours.
It's going to be a zoo, even if we leave at noon.
Yeah. We are not going anywhere.
Oh, you're not?
You're gonna
sweat it out here?
It's not going to sweat it out.
80 degrees?
Is it going to be 80?
I think so.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow, that's great. Okay.
The rest of the country's in a deep freeze,
Kids might
and here
swim.
we are.
There we go. So there's, post-election chatter continues. And one thing that we have seen is that Trump's numbers are way up.
Yeah, tremendously up. I mean, the post-election polling that's coming out, especially amongst our generation, Gen X, which got him elected,
Yep.
It's looking like, and also amongst young people, which if you're a young person and you're entering the job market and you're in the market that has been under the Biden administration, you are hoping for good things with President Trump.
Well, and so somebody asked me, I don't understand if Trump was so divisive and, his numbers were bad and he was, it was Kamala. How is it possible that he's up? And there is a pretty simple answer to that. And that is, for years, the Democrats and the mainstream media have been saying if this man gets reelected as president again, the world will end.
Yes.
And they wake up, it's a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks after the election. Good things are happening. Not very much bad is happening. There's discussions about, obviously this Hezbollah, the Israel and Hezbollah ceasefire. Hamas had made some overtures about the hostages being released. You had Putin and Zelensky, already discussing what it looks like to be a stand down. The world didn't end, and the stock market is up. Economy looks like it's going okay. Maybe we're headed for another recession. I don't know, but the Democrats and the mainstream media literally said that the world was going to end. And when people wake up and they say, "Oh, things are okay," of course he's going to have a bounce.
Well, even the fabled resistance has drawn down.
There's
The
no
fabled
resistance.
resistance that was at such a fever pitch when Trump was elected the last time is now taking a pass.
Yeah.
And why are they taking a pass? Because they know that it's in their best interest just to sit this one out. The only people who seem to be really fired up are all these mayors and governors and AGs across America who want to fight Trump on the immigration deportations, which I don't know if they got the memo. Immigration was the number one issue he was elected on.
Well,
and they seem to want to plant a flag, especially the mayor of Denver, and even go to jail.
Well,
on behalf of the resistance.
It will be interesting because if the Trump administration is smart, they will focus all of their efforts on the initial wave of deportations on the most violent criminals.
Absolutely, and
then
I think
dare the
Holman
governors
has been really focused on that, just saying, listen, we're going to go after the people who are here illegally, who are are on the terror watch list, have committed crimes, have had their cases adjudicated completely, and have gotten their deportation orders.
Right.
And this administration has completely ignored.
And let the mayors and the governors and the AGs be the ones that stand up for criminals.
Absolutely.
I mean,
yeah,
that's
essentially
indefensible.
That's essentially
indefensible.
the sword they're going to die on. Yeah.
Seems a little bit wild.
It's completely wild until you actually see how this is all going to take place. And especially after 15, 20 million people have been allowed to come to this country illegally. And we were told time and time again how secure the border was. So secure that Secretary Mayorkas and the director of the FBI wouldn't even come to Capitol Hill last week to testify on how secure the border is.
Right.
Because they know it's a mess. And they know that their jobs have been a mess.
Speaking of testifying on Capitol Hill, we have a bunch of nominations.
Mm-hmm.
And they continue to come. We have one that's gone. We talked about this last time.
That would be
Matt Gaetz.
Matty Gaetz.
He's
going to be a deputy muckety muck somewhere.
I don't think so. I actually I saw that he had. I don't know if he's officially announced, but he's floating that he's going to run for governor in Florida.
Wow.
So he's definitely taking himself. He says he's not going back to the House. Thank you, Jesus. And I had to troll him a little bit. His wife posted a picture of him, said retirement has never looked so good.
Actually, that's the person I feel bad for through all this. Is his wife? Yeah, a little bit. I mean,
Ginger.
Is that what her name is? I mean, I don't know anything about her, but I mean, she married this guy. He's pretty much a sleazeball, and then this happened. He resigns. They went through obviously an election cycle, and then he resigns immediately under this delusion that he thinks he's actually going to get, the AG's job. I still believe that it was a false flag. I believe there's something else coming, and I don't know. I have nothing else beyond that versus just my gut.
I mean,
you have to think there's going to be some place in the administration for him that they've already promised him. They knew this ethics, report was going to come out.
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
No,
You don't think they're that smart?
I don't think this is 4D chess. I think this was just a snap decision. Oh, this sounds like a great idea. He's a bulldog. He'll defend
So
me.
what do you think about his replacement, Pam Bondi?
I think that's great.
You do?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
she was a very capable AG for 8 years in Florida. I mean, that's one of the biggest states in the country. If she knows how to do the job there,
apparently
she
she
can
actually
certainly do the job.
prosecuted cases.
Yeah.
Unlike Ms. Harris.
Yeah. Yeah.
So everyone on Capitol Hill seems to be very, very positive. I was rather skeptical at first how she would be received, but I was wrong.
I think
she's been received
she was
tremendously.
she was a popular AG. She got stuff done.
And in Trump land, she is incredibly popular.
Yeah. So Gates goes down, thankfully. But you've got so Hegseth, that one's still hanging out there. I don't know how that's going to play out. You got the police report. This woman waited 5 days to go report it. I'm not going to say anything about whether that was good or bad.
If you've listened or read anything about this, it is weird. It is really bizarre.
a lot of holes.
It's a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And we consider ourselves a family program, so we don't need to go into all the
stuff.
all the stuff.
Well, yeah. So we'll see how that plays out. I think that what I've sensed is that there are more senators who have said, yeah, he's up for it. We want to have hearings. We're going to talk.
I think his meetings have gone well because the chatter seems to have subsided a little bit. And it would seem if the meetings, so what happens, ladies and gentlemen, is that you get nominated and then you have a handler, so to speak, who
and J.D. Vance himself was the one taking
himself.
Hegseth
has been taking Hegseth around. He took Gates around, and he's been leading the charge on a lot of these nominees. And you go and you meet, and at least initially with the governing senators on whatever committee that your nomination goes through, and then come January, you typically will try to meet with all senators, both parties. And if there was a lot of reservation, you'd be hearing a lot more than I think we are with Pete. I think things have died down.
I think that it's definitely quieted. I actually think Gates pulling out was helpful.
Yeah.
And so you've got RFK Jr., HHS. You've got Congressman Dave Weldon, former Congressman Dave Weldon, class of '94. He's slated for CDC. He's a doctor. That's a good pick.
Marty McCary at FDA home run.
Great pick. These are picks that the industry hates.
Yep,
and that's good.
And that's a good thing.
That's exactly what we want.
Yeah, people are losing their minds over Marty. They're Dr. McCary from Johns Hopkins. People are losing their minds over RFKJ. Great, fine, good.
Let them lose their minds because accountability.
Here it comes.
Yeah.
As we've said before on this show, and I think it's an apt reflection, and we've heard this on other shows as well, this is the F around and find out election.
Yeah.
And some people are going to find out quick.
They're going to find out. Foreign policy side, I mean, who couldn't be happier? I mean, I'm super happy with Marco, and it looks like he's going to sail through the Senate.
Yeah.
I mean, you have Democrat senators that, like Fetterman has already said, I'm voting for him. Done. Even Tammy Duckworth.
That's amazing, and that's a good thing for the country because there needs to be that sort of circling around. Some nominees that are vastly competent, very accomplished, and that people.
I mean,
like.
he will be, and I'm not just fanboying this. He will be one of the most prepared and effective secretaries of state on day one that we've had in a very, very long time.
Yeah, I think that's very true.
I mean, this guy has spent years doing the foreign policy thing, the trips, sitting on the intelligence committee. I mean, he knows this stuff.
Yeah, well. Absolutely.
And I guess the question is who's going to be. He hasn't announced FBI director yet, right?
He has not announced FBI director. He did announce his pick for Office of Management and Budget.
Yes, Russ Vought, good friend of ours.
So Russ was on our podcast a little bit over a year and a half ago when we were in Washington, D.C.
Most recently, we had him back again.
Yeah.
So
recently he was on Tucker's podcast, and he's brilliant. I don't think I'm so glad he's going back to that job because I don't really believe he believes he did as much as he could have done.
Well, he ran out of. I mean, he didn't have the job for as long
No.
as he needed to. But
No.
but going into it, that this is what's really important for people to understand. The director, being the director of the Office of Management and Budget, is one of the most important jobs in Washington. It is literally the place where all things go through. All things go through OMB, whether it's regulatory, lawmaking, whatever. Everything has to be stamped by OMB.
Yeah.
And so he'll have his fingers on every piece of this. And so he will be the cog, the most important cog in the whole machinery of what Elon and Vivek want to try to do with their Department of Government Efficiency. Russ is going to be the central player in figuring out how to implement any recommendations. That's huge. That's
Yeah.
huge.
I mean,
and you couldn't get a more, I mean, he's an unassuming, practical, very smart guy. You know, came right out of Phil Graham's world. You know, can't get much better than that.
No.
And,
I mean, Phil Graham is the grandfather of our deregulatory,
Yeah.
tax-adverse
And
feast.
understanding the budget. Yeah, I mean, this is a great thing for our country. I literally, I feel like all of the rest of everything, all the other picks could just be disasters. This one is like the most important in my mind.
Well, and like I said, he didn't get to do as much as he would have wanted to the last summer because he wasn't in the position very long. He knows the position. He knows where the bodies are buried. With the Supreme Court ruling on Chevron deference, there's so much regulation out there that has been implemented by the different agencies that's completely and totally unconstitutional that are going to be able to wipe out day one.
Yeah.
Day one.
Yeah.
And that's going to lift such an anvil from our business community, from small business, big business, mom and pops, the arm of the iron arm of government.
Yeah. This
will be
is going
lifted.
to unshackle the burdens that allows our small business and business community and economy to just start really.
And I think that's why you're seeing the stock market just take off because, and if you talk to bankers and you talk to different people, people were holding on to cash. People were holding on to, there wasn't a lot of trading going on. People were holding on to investments. M&A activity, mergers, acquisitions activity had kind of hadn't dried up, but it had slowed. And now there's so much excitement because a lot of that capital is going to get freed up. You're going to see probably a 15% corporate tax being implemented. You're going to see capital gains taxes being lowered. You're going to see a lot of proactive tax policy and regulatory policy being implemented that's going to free up the economy. And so much of that capital is going to come flying back in, not just in America, but other foreign capital coming into our country as well, which is incredibly valuable.
Well, and the one interesting pick that I am super excited about, just as a personal thing, is former Congressman Pete Hoekstra, a friend of mine.
Yeah,
he was very close friends with John Shadegg. He had been ambassador to the Netherlands under Trump's first administration, came back, ended up being the party chairman in Michigan, GOP, and he's now going to be the next ambassador to Canada.
I had not heard that.
That's a pretty plum pick.
I had not heard that.
Pick, yeah.
Well, Canada's quite the mess, so it'll be fun.
He'll be able to set a good example, so he'll have lots to point to. For sure.
That's going to be the other interesting piece that hasn't started yet is the ambassadorship lobbying. Who gets the plum London job, the plum Dublin job, the plum Germany job,
Japan,
the plum Switzerland job?
Yeah. Well,
or you could be like Jeff Flake and go to Turkey,
right?
Which I think he enjoyed, but still,
I think there's
hard,
lots.
That was a hard job.
Yeah, there's lots of interesting things yet to come. So going back now, as we look back at, we're in 3 weeks hindsight of the election, maybe a little bit more. Actually, 3 weeks from today. Right?
Yeah,
3 weeks ago today.
Yeah. Kamala's still on vacation, and nobody knows where Joe Biden is.
No, Joe Biden pardoned the turkeys.
He pardoned the turkey. They had the farewell dinner the other night. He cried.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
Well,
Dr. Jill did most of the talking, apparently.
That's not a surprise.
No.
So one of the things that I think was important is, we have to look at the election. Some people are like, how did this happen? Well, there's a number of inflection points. We've talked about this before. We talked about, excuse me, the debate. Well, even before that. So one of the things that you have talked a lot about, a lot, and I have not talked as much.
Is that a good thing or a
no?
bad thing?
I think what you had your pulse, you had your finger on the pulse more than I did in this regard, because I saw the lawfare and I was like, man, this is stupid. I don't know why they're doing it. But you really leaned in and you're like, this is having an impact on how people feel about Trump.
Yes.
And especially the Letitia James stuff in New York. You pointed out in previous episodes about how scary that is for business guys.
Yes. I think that's when the business community truly woke up. I think a lot of business people, small business people, people who have businesses with significant assets, people in real estate, banking, finance, everybody kind of woke up. Because before that, you had the documents case down in Florida. You had the RICO case in Georgia.
The election denial case.
The election denial. You had the January 6th stuff going on in Washington. It was all very complex, or at least from a layman's terms, it was all very complex. Like, what are they trying to get at? Other presidents have taken documents and put them in their bathrooms, for sure. Why not?
Right.
And then you've got Letitia James going after Trump's businesses. And the way she was going after Trump's businesses was in a way that we had not seen before. And for people who don't know, I mean, what she did was file a lawsuit on behalf of the state of New York and said that Trump had overvalued his business assets in order to get favorable treatment on loans from Deutsche Bank specifically, so that he can go out and buy other buildings and businesses or remodeling or whatever he was doing. Now, the scary part about that is he might have overvalued his businesses. That's fine. That happens all the time. Did he get favorable terms? Of course he did. His name is Trump. Did he get an interest rate that he had to pay? Of course he did. Did all that economic activity get taxed by the state and by the feds? Of course it did. It probably got taxed at a higher rate because the valuations were so much better than they might have been. So the reason why I think that got everyone's attention is because in real estate and business, it's a common practice. Nobody was harmed. Deutsche Bank took the risk. They got paid back. The government got their tax money. Nothing happened. There was no one who was harmed. You have to prove harm. And the fear after that was, goodness, if the state of New York can do this to Donald Trump, why wouldn't they do this to anyone?
Right.
To anyone who has a banking relationship in which their loan to value is based on the assets that they hold of their business.
Right.
I mean, if you own a bunch of, because I know this intimately, warehouses, if you own a bunch of warehouses and you are, let's say, changing banks, and you're changing your banking relationship, and you want to make sure you get the best loan to value you can get, and you're going to make sure that you're valuing those assets at premium,
right?
Because you want to be able to grow your business going forward. Wow, if the state came in and said those assets were overvalued, and then you get sued, and what? Yeah, it's frightening, and so I think. That's a long explanation, but I think what happened is you had never Trumpers who hated Trump no matter what. You had what we call forever Trumpers who are the MAGA people who are Trump can do no wrong. And then you had, I think, what best describes you and I as the whatever Trumpers. Like, okay, well, I like his policies. I appreciate who he is.
I think I've
and I would consider myself just a whatever Trumper.
Well,
when they went after him with that, it was absolutely unbelievable.
I think one way to say we were Trump adjacent.
Yes,
not in, but not out. But this lawfare definitely drew you in more so, and then then what I started to see is the outrageous. So was it? So you were drawn by the power of the prosecutor saying this is crazy because this. I mean, she could come after anybody.
Yeah.
One of the things that I was,
But what that did is that then I started looking at everything else.
right,
And then I started saying, this is all crazy.
yeah,
None of this is right. In fact, all of it is ridiculous. And
Well,
then when you start connecting the dots between the Justice Department and the White House, which I think that's the greatest fear that this administration has right now, is those dots are going to become a lot clearer
Yeah.
as we after the inauguration, and some people's heads are going to roll.
Well, it'll be interesting to see what actually happens because keep in mind that the FBI, I can't remember the guy's name, that was texting and they're like, we're never going to let him be president. I mean, he never went to
Peter
jail.
Strzok. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I don't
go
know.
to jail with his mistress, and
I don't know what's going to happen with these guys, but
do you think
one-
Kash Patel gets the FBI job?
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
I don't think so. Although I don't know. What do
I
I
mean,
know?
it's an interesting.
What do I know?
It's an interesting idea.
But here's the thing that the things that I started to look at that were like, this is absurd, and that was when the prosecutor or the judge, I don't remember which, put the value of Mar-a-Lago. Now think about this. This is a property that's a huge amount of acreage, right in the middle of Palm Beach. It's oceanfront, right?
oh yeah,
It's got oceanfront. It's I don't know how many acres, but it's a club that has
private club
hundreds.
with a private residence.
Yeah, with hundreds of dues-paying members, and
Yeah.
the buy-in there is what 100, 150, 200,000.
I have no idea.
I mean, it's expensive.
It's significant.
They valued that at $18 million.
Yeah.
$18 million.
That's kind of when you knew that
This
it,
is just,
it wasn't real. It
Yeah.
was a game, and they were coming after their political opponent to try to ruin him, and to try to either dissuade him from running or try to jail him before the election to then have Joe Biden at that time, and then maybe maybe an Obama, a Michelle Obama, which I think that was still part of the plan. Waltz into the White House. And this is where I think the public turned. They overreached. I think one case might have been good, two cases, but they overreached. And I think the most outrageous part of their overreach, in my opinion, as a business person, was the Letitia James, and the verdict that she got from that judge was over $500 million.
yeah.
That was the part where people took a step back and said, this is absolute BS. This whole thing is a sham, and it shouldn't be happening in this country. And I have my issues with Donald Trump. I have my issues with, maybe other things that he's done, but this is wrong.
Yeah.
And then you saw the change in the youth vote too, and I think the change in the youth vote happened not only what was happening on college campuses with this administration, but also what was happening internationally, what they saw as weakness. And I told you the story earlier. I should have really understood it more plainly than I did at the time. But over the summer, we go over to La Jolla and with another family, and this friend of mine, his son, brought a Trump T-shirt. He brought 3 of them to La Jolla. And he was walking around the beach with this Trump T-shirt. People are high-fiving him. They're fist bumping him. And that's when I kind of knew, oh, my gosh, people are kind of fed up.
Yeah, there's something
There's
that
something
we're not
else
seeing.
here, and they've overreached.
And so that goes right to my next little thought process on the election and then the post-election and how this is. So, I've said, and you've said that Twitter is not real life. X is not real life.
It's you've termed it the dumpster fire.
Yeah,
I
it's
think
a
that's
dumpster
true.
fire. And I still think that's true. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of there's X since Elon has taken it. It's grown, but it's been more right leaning. Obviously, it's become more of an echo chamber of the right. There's still a lot of leftists.
Yeah, people are leaving Twitter for Blue Sky
and Threads.
Threads
had a 35 million new signups this month,
Wow,
that's a lot. That's a lot.
I think most people are just going to be on everything like they already are.
Yeah. But what's interesting is what I want people to understand is that even though Elon is close to Trump and there's a lot of influencers on X that are close to Trump and they're all crowing about how much they had to do with getting Trump elected and that kind of thing. It's still a place that is an echo chamber, and it's not necessarily real life. And the proof of that, in my mind, is Matt Gaetz. Because if you'll recall, when Gaetz was nominated, X went crazy. All the right-wing influencers said, Senate must confirm. Any senator who doesn't confirm, we're going to go after them, blah, blah, blah.
We're going to primary them and everything else.
Actually, I take that back. It was before that. It was before the Matt Gaetz. It was when the leader election was happening, and you had all these high-profile conservative influencers saying, if you don't vote for Rick Scott, then you're a rhino. We don't want anybody but Rick Scott. Rick Scott's the guy to be majority leader. Rick Scott got 12 votes and dropped out after the first round.
Yeah, he didn't make it past the first round, and there's a reason for that.
Yeah, because
Rick Scott has not distinguished himself within the body.
And
you and I both know, having been there, lived there, been around there, it is the smallest private country club on the face of the planet.
Well, and what people fail to realize, and I see, when Scott went down, people were like, the Senate isn't listening to the American people. Well, yeah, they are, because they got elected to do a job. It's not the voters' job to decide who the majority leader is. It's the senator's job to decide who the majority leader is. Voters don't have a say in that.
Yeah.
That's absurd. We're not a direct democracy, guys. We're not a direct democracy. I, as a voter in Arizona, do not have a say in who the majority leader of the U.S. Senate is. That's not I don't have that.
Yeah.
And the thing that drives me crazy is that people who claim to be followers of the Constitution have no freaking idea how the Constitution actually works and how the Constitution lays out the structure of our government and who makes what decisions. It's just annoying.
At the same time, you have... So the Senate, in its infinite wisdom, has decided to keep the filibuster.
Yeah.
So
do you think Chuck Schumer called Kirsten Sinema and said, Senator, I just want to thank you for protecting the filibuster?
No, I think really need there's a tweet by her. I think that there were some people on the Senate floor, Democrats, crowing about the filibuster and how they're going to use the filibuster to squash Trump's agenda, and I think her tweet was like, "Imagine that" or something like that, and it goes to show also how much theater there is within the Senate. And blowing up the filibuster would destroy the Senate, make it nothing more than a 100-member House of Representatives.
Right.
I think everyone knows that. However, crowing about blowing it up, as Kamala has and Chuck Schumer has and everything else, is not good for our democracy. It's not good for the Constitution. Right. And so I think everybody hopefully will take a step back and realize we need to reinvigorate faith in our institutions.
Yes.
Chuck Schumer, let's bag on Chuck Schumer. He's the biggest demagogue there is in American politics. Chuck Schumer going to the steps of the Supreme Court and telling, Justices Kavanaugh and everyone else that they're going to come after them if they, we're going to release the hounds of hell if you overturn Roe v. Wade.
Right.
Not helpful.
Well, just
not
totally
helpful.
Inappropriate. Totally inappropriate.
But this is where the Democrats have become, and I thought about this coming in here. They've become the party of delusion.
100%.
Delusion, because if you look at what the reaction over the last 3 weeks, it's been delusional. If you look at Mika and Joe going and kneeling before Zod, as I think Neil Rothman put that in the National Review. It's delusional. It doesn't take away from the complete damage you've done to the republic because of your idiotic rhetoric.
Well,
the whole there's Republicans who are scared that Nancy Mace is overstepping her bounds on the bathroom issue in the Congress. No, she's actually standing up for something that to the delusion of the Democrats.
well, yeah. I mean,
And it's about time we did that.
that's an issue that it's mind blowing to me that we have to have a debate in the U.S. Congress about a rule that our bathrooms are for the gender that you are.
Yeah.
That you are biologically a male, you use the men's bathroom, and they have options with unisex bathrooms there.
There's plenty of unisex bathrooms. There's also a bathroom in your office.
Yeah.
So please don't try to make a point.
That's true. If you don't know, every member of Congress, every office suite has a bathroom in the members.
The vast majority of members of Congress sleep in their offices.
Yeah.
You know, they simply don't have the money to buy $1 million condo south of Capitol Street.
So what's really interesting to me.
I went off at a tangent there, but I just, in terms of the Constitution and what people don't understand, I mean, we have elected officials who don't understand the Constitution.
Yeah,
and it's really
that's
disgusting.
Clear. That's clear.
And try to want to usurp the Constitution any which way they can.
But it will be interesting to watch how the Democrats, they have a lot of self-reflection and discussion amongst themselves to do about what went wrong. And, obviously, one of the things that went wrong is they've gone delusional, that they are delusional because they are trying to, the cultural war issue has backfired on them in a huge way because the normal people are just like, what are you doing?
I've heard this before on other podcasts. This election is also the revenge of the normies.
Yeah.
Normal people are like, no, we're not doing this anymore.
Yeah.
This is crazy, and we don't want to elect crazy.
You know who? This is gonna be interesting. You know who one of the biggest winners are in this election? And she's not even an American citizen.
Oh my.
J.K. Rowling.
Oh.
She was viciously attacked as anti-trans because she's a liberal feminist.
Yes.
And, this term of TERF, what does TERF say? Trans exclusionary radical feminist, TERF.
Okay.
Okay, so she's a TERF. That's like it's some terrible thing. But what she and all of the women like her, they are very much winners in this because they have for years fought for equality for women. The feminist movement is the first victim of a overreach on trans issues. It is the men.
They stayed silent. So many of them.
Well, J.K. Rowling definitely did not.
No,
stay
she
silent.
did not, and I would put Riley Gaines up there with her. The people who've been wronged by the trans movement.
Right. So, it is mind blowing to me how hateful the rhetoric gets.
Yes.
Around this thing. Nancy
Mace is getting death.
Well, not,
threats,
but guess what?
Bizarre.
Even the man who identifies as a woman, McKnight, is that the name of the congressperson from Delaware who's the trans?
Yeah, Tim. Or I don't know what his preferred name is.
Anyway, the attacks on that person by the trans community has been amazing.
Really?
To watch. Yes, because they tweeted that I didn't come to Congress to fight over bathroom access. I came to Congress to represent Delaware. And that congressperson just got annihilated by the trans community for not standing up for their rights.
Again, delusional.
Yeah.
I mean, delusional on this issue because it was the deciding factor in the election with Trump's ad against Kamala. Delusional on the economy. Bidenomics works. No. Delusional on immigration. They're doubling down on their stance that criminals, violent offenders, they did not watch the Laken Riley trial at all in the last 2 weeks. Obviously, they would not be doing this otherwise.
Right.
They would be saying, we plan to work with administration where we can to rid our communities of violent, illegal offenders. They would secure themselves maybe another election. They will fall if they fall on the sword of defying Mr. Holman. Grab your popcorn.
Well,
It's going to be really interesting.
and I really think that so typically the cyclical political nature of our country is we have a presidential election, and then typically the next midterm is a backlash to whatever happened in the presidential election. So, let's do the real obvious ones. 2008, Obama gets elected. 2010, huge backlash. Republicans take the House. 2012, Obama gets elected. 2014, huge backlash. Republicans take the Senate. So then they have the House and the Senate. Then you had...
then Trump.
And then Trump 20 gets elected in
2016.
In 2016. 2018 is a bloodbath.
With both houses.
And
which was unexpected.
And Republicans lose both houses
Yeah.
in 2018, this House and the Senate. And then,
Although I don't think we'll lose the Senate this next time.
well, so that's where I'm going. Is that
Okay.
that's the typical back and forth,
Yeah.
the back and forth. We're not going to. I agree. The chances of us losing the Senate, I think, are almost zero.
Yeah.
It would be insanity if we lost the Senate, because, I mean, the most at-risk person on the list of Republicans is Susan Collins in Maine.
And she's not going to lose.
No, because she is. I mean,
Unless she just retires.
well,
she
if
could
she
retire.
loses the primary, then we'll lose the seat. So
Yeah.
they need to not primary her. Tom Tillis in North Carolina
That's going to be a tough race.
could be challenging. But then there's the Democrats have to defend some places that aren't super easy. Trying to think. I think Michigan is up again.
Well, Georgia, I believe, is up.
Oh yeah, Georgia.
Virginia. There's
Virginia.
some opportunities there.
Michigan, I think Gary Peters is up in
Yeah.
Michigan.
There's some different opportunities to even grow the majority.
So it's likely to
if
stay
you-
Republican. And then the House, it's we don't know. Because we don't know what the Democrat reaction is going to be to their loss this year. Are they going to play ball, or are they going to
Go
try
farther left.
Go farther left.
Right now, it looks like they're going to try to go farther left.
That's insane.
I
That
mean, even
can't be
even
true.
the governor of California and some of the actions that he's made, overtures that he's going to take against Trump, is going farther left, and
Well,
it's going to drive more and more people out of his state, and it's going to be the same thing.
Did you see what he did on the EV? So he
Yeah.
said that if Trump takes away the EV tax credit, then
$7,500.
California will give that as a rebate, except for Tesla.
Yeah, and Tesla's the only manufacturer of EVs in the state.
Yeah, it's by far the
that this
biggest.
morning. By far the biggest.
EV. More Teslas are sold than
right
any
there
other
in
EV.
Torrance.
And they're made. He's got factories there.
That's unbelievable.
It's bizarre, and Musk, I think, to his credit, has said, "Look, take the credit away. That's fine," because Tesla is at a position where they've proven they can succeed. I mean, they were successful before Biden instituted the
credit, and the
tax
only
credit.
reason why he instituted the credit was try to jumpstart other domestic manufacturers. And what has happened instead is that those domestic manufacturers, the cost of building those vehicles is so high, and the demand has been so low that economics takes over, right?
Yeah.
And they've reported millions. Ford has shut down how many assembly plants because they can't. They just don't have the demand.
Is it true? I read
The
somewhere
demand is not there. So take away the tax credits, take away the incentives. Let the market decide where the EV, where the EV market is going to go,
Right.
for lack of a better term.
I read somewhere that Ford was losing
Oh, it's unbelievable.
a ton of money on the Lightnings.
Yeah. They've lost a ton of money on the Lightning. They've lost the only car I believe that has been relatively successful for them is the Mustang. In terms of demand and supply, just basic demand and supply. So we'll see. But whenever the government tries to pick winners and losers in an industry, it ends up really harming the industry.
Gosh, this is.
You found it?
Ford reported a net income of $1.3 billion for the first quarter of 2024, and the blue oval battery electric Model E division, so the EV version portion of Ford, lost $1.3 billion in the quarter.
Oh my gosh!
So
that's really not that fun.
Comes out to losing $130,000 for every EV it sold.
Yeah, so the $7,500
that does nothing.
Credit, and that goes directly to consumers. So they just try to jack up the price. It does nothing.
They lost $130,000 per vehicle.
Yeah, this is where Doge, I think, and because of what we talked about earlier in the podcast, I think has a great opportunity to weed out all these different idiotic incentives and tax policy that try to pick winners and losers across industries. I think it's wrong.
Yeah. Well, it'll be interesting to see how, because, I've heard there's the back channeling in the car manufacturing industry is that they are trying to back channel to Trump. They don't want him to take the EV credit stuff away because there's so much invested in it.
Yeah.
That they're kind of, and
Well, then from just a practical standpoint, any type of mandates that exist from the EPA or elsewhere have to just be gutted.
Yeah.
That has to go away. There's
well, that
and
right.
then they're going to have to sue the state of California for their EV mandate for 2035.
Right. Right.
Because you can't have one state dictating to the rest of the country what the market's going to look like.
So that'll be fascinating.
So I think that needs to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's part of, maybe Newsom's calculation. We're going to get sued. The Justice Department's going to be coming in here. So maybe we need to just be preemptive.
And so then it goes to, okay, what are we looking forward to 2028? Who are the Democrats? In all the polling to Democrats right now, Harris is leading the pack by a mile.
She's been in Hawaii for 3 weeks. I think, she's tan, rested, ready.
Out of sight.
The cackle is back. She feels like she can cackle her way to the governorship in 2026.
Yeah, but I don't think she can run for governor in 2026 and then president in 2028. So I think she has to make a decision.
I think the best thing for her to do, because I think she'll win, is run for governor. I just think she'll win. She has the infrastructure there in California. If she gets a good deputy, they can run the state. She can't manage her way out of a brown paper bag and just save her life.
I mean, that's the death knell for California if she runs.
You know that. I know that. But do Californians know that?
I don't know. Well, some, the ones that left.
The ones that left know that. That's why they keep leaving.
So it'll be interesting. So watch.
Gas prices are going to shoot through the roof in California because of the taxes that are being implemented right now.
Right. Watch the outflow of California residents over the next year or so to be an indicator of how things are playing out. But anyway.
So much more to talk about.
Yeah, we'll have to get to more later.
Yeah, but
for now,
hey,
eat your turkey.
Just thankful
Be
for
thankful.
you.
Thankful for you, Chris.
Thankful for you. Thankful for Robin.
You. Robin.
Thankful
for the whole team.
We're thankful for Dave Pratt for letting us sit here and pontificate every week and come into your radios.
But most
importantly,
thank you to you, the listener, the viewer. I mean, we are honored that you would spend time with us.
Yeah.
We're a little bit surprised, frankly.
But we're humbled.
We're
It's humbling.
we're honored. We're
It's-
honored.
it's
Humbled.
Whenever somebody comes up to me and says, I listened to your podcast the other day," I'm like, "Really?
Yeah, it's
Thank
always,
you.
it's always exciting when
Thank you so
someone
much.
says they listen.
Please, gift us some stars and
like and subscribe
and,
wherever you listen.
God bless you all. Thank you
and
so
we
much.
appreciate it. Have a great Thanksgiving. Take care.
Happy Thanksgiving."